Could you speculate a little bit about how a company like Facebook could use information about things like users clicking on a like button on something to suggest possible people to be friends with?
Right. So a simple way is this idea that let's assume we have Mary, John, and Jill, right? And Mary is friends with John and Jill, but John and Jill are not friends with each other. And every time Mary posts something, both John and Jill like it. Right. So because they keep liking the things that Mary posts, we think, well, they should like each other as well and want to be friends. And in fact, another reason that it makes sense to have them be friends is that they're both friends with Mary, right? And so they share a common friend and they like a lot of the stuff that Mary is posting. And so that would be a good friend suggestion. And the more actually friends they have in common, the higher this idea of, oh, well, they will want to be friends because they share a lot of common friends. And this is a whole area called tie strength about, how strongly am I tied to you or would I be tied to you? And we actually recently had a paper in Web Science conference on this. So when I actually go out of my way and like something, it means that, and you go out of your way and like it, it means that maybe we should be friends because we like the same kinds of things. It's also connected to the concept of homophily, of this idea of like attracting like. It's been around in history for a very long time. In fact, it dates all the way back to Plato, which says similarity begets friendship. Or for example, in more common day, we say birds of a feather flock together, right? And so in a social network, links tend to connect people who are similar to one another, right? So I'm similar to you, and so I would like to be your friends, and so I have a link to you. For example, you want to find out about whether I'm a good guy or a bad guy, right? You can look at my friends and see, if the majority of them are good guys or bad guys. And if the majority of them are good guys, then you would guess, well, Tina must be a good guy because she's friends with a lot of good guys, right? And so that idea, and that's where also this idea of ego nets come along. So ego net is a term in sociology, and it refers to the ego. And then I have my alters, which are my friends. So my friends are my alters. And the person you're considering is called the ego. And the ego net is the network that connects the ego to the alters and that connects the alters together. So you can have ego nets that look like a star where you have the ego and links to all alters, but none of the alters know each other. Or you can have a clique where everybody knows each other in this ego net, right? The ego obviously knows all the alters and is friends with all the alters, and all the alters are friends with each other, right? And in fact, going back to this idea of recommending links, the closer the more cliquey your ego net is, the more links there are in your ego net, the more likely it is that the alters that aren't connected to each other would want to be connected to each other.
Now, we looked at something in the class called the clustering coefficient. Is it safe to kind of define that as the density of the connections among your alters?
Or if you want to think about it, the number of triangles that exist, right, in your ego net. So selection is the tendency of people to form friendship with others who are like them, right? And so if you want to do targeted outreach for a particular product, you're assuming that there's selection going on. Influence is the fact that we're already friends, and people may change their behavior to bring them more closely into the alignment with their friends, right? And that's where, for example, a lot of viral marketing is good for. So if you're trying to push something where the underlying cause is social influence, then you would want to go with viral marketing. And so with selection, again, the individual characteristics drive the formation of links, of the friendship links. And then with influence is the existing links in the networks shape, people's characteristics. So, I buy an iPhone, I really like it, I play with it, and that influences you to go buy an iPhone. And usually when people talk about influence, they also talk about contagion. It's basically the same kind of a term. People use it interchangeably. And there was this very I guess, famous study back in 2007 that got a lot of publicity that was done by Professor Christakis at Harvard and Professor Fowler at University of California, San Diego. And they looked at how obesity is is caused by influence, that obesity is contagious, right? And that they had this thing where, having an obese friend increases your chance of obesity by 57%. And that was when it got like everything was contagious. And contagious. Everything was contagious. And there was all these, like Time magazine had a front cover and Wired magazine and all that. And then when people looked more into the model, they found that, well, wait a second. If I follow the model, then tallness is also contagious. Fortunately, it's not, because I would like to be taller, but I'm not. It really gets down to this idea of correlation and causation. Lots and lots of interesting work. And with real applications, right? Like if I have a product that I want to spread through a network, if I want people to change their behavior and stop smoking, is it influence or is it selection? Because depending on which one it is, I should do either viral marketing or targeted outreach. So it's very important.